Hello. So my name is Neil Williams, and I'm from Tillix AI. It's a small consultancy based in Edinburgh. We do work around the globe. So today I've got what was a lightning talk at Elasticon a few weeks ago. So I'll rattle through my slides in about 8 minutes at Elasticon, but tonight we have half an hour. So what that means is I either speak very slowly or I get to talk about all the things that I couldn't cram into the 8 minutes. So it's a short case history of how Elastic's helped a new electricity supplier survive some crazy times when many others failed. So over the next few minutes, I'll unpack some of the detail, and there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end. So the end user is Champion Energy, established Q4 2019, and started out with very little capital. To enter the licensed electricity market in the UK requires quite a bit of IT, and we'll come on to some of the detail of that in a moment. Champion's regulated by the UK government through Ofgem, which is the Office of Gas and Electricity Markets. Data processing and analysis really is core to electricity supply business. So there's a lot of data flying around. So the data transfer catalog underpins the electricity industry in the UK, and it's really quite a throwback. It was designed in the early 90s before the deregulation of the market, the opening up of the market in the UK, and these tabbed limited files are getting passed around various participants in the electricity industry. A typical day at Champion, we receive about 400 of these files and about 40 megabytes. So it's not a huge amount of data, but it's enough to keep me busy, so to say. So the challenge for Champion Energy, starting out with very little capital, was to find a solution to managing these data flows. The obvious solution was to buy an off-the-shelf ERP system that already handled that. But if Champion had gone down that route, they would have used the majority of their starting capital investing in IT, and they wouldn't have had any in their war chest left over in case something went wrong in the market, for example. So we proceeded to go into the market with a frugal approach, which I'll touch on in a few minutes. And lo and behold, crazy things started to happen in the market. No sooner had we entered. So in the end of 2019, Champion Energy had an investor lined up, and the strategy was enter the market, bring the investor on board. With the capital coming in, that would pay for the ERP system. When COVID struck, the investor got cold feet, like a lot of investors, and the capital wasn't coming. So we continued to weather the storm. Then you think things can't get bad with COVID. The price of electricity and gas started to skyrocket. The root cause of that were related to COVID, and beyond that, then Putin in Russia starts saber rattling. There's a bit of a dispute around the gas pipeline in the Baltic, and the price keeps going up. It hits its peak through the invasion into Ukraine, and I'm pleased to say things are settling down. So kind of coupled with a non-trivial IT problem, running a startup business with limited capital in such an environment was really quite a roller coaster, I would say. So the approach that I've taken, as I've mentioned earlier, I'm from Scotland, canny Scotsman. I like to avoid spend wherever possible, and I'm really pleased to say that this is quite in vogue. In the last few years, been some cracking books about frugal innovation and the frugal innovator. In India, they have a word for frugal innovation. It's hopefully I pronounce it right, Jugaad. And you look at the innovations in India, and they're doing some amazing things, particularly in healthcare, around treating heart patients, amputees, etc. There's lots of great examples of frugal innovation. So thoroughly recommend you look up these books or look up frugal innovation on Wikipedia. I won't elaborate more tonight. But the solution is why we're here. We want to know more about Elastic, and I found Elastic's great for frugal systems engineering. There's a free offer, so it's easy to get started, and immediately it's clear that there isn't a lock-in. Once started, I found very open. There's great. There's a great community. There's the Python clients in GitHub. Kibana is really quite open, and the community we're here tonight is quite a vibrant and open community. So accelerating that development with Elastic as a foundation was quite easy. Now that Champion Energy is maturing, we need a bit more stability, a bit more scale, and we're moving to the Elastic Cloud, and we're finding that is a godsend. You know, I don't have to deal so much with things going bump in the night. Somebody else will do that. If I get stuck, there's professional support. So that's the journey at Champion Energy. Our stack is pretty conventional. We have dashboards in Kibana. These data flows that I talked about earlier, we index them in Elasticsearch. The ETL layer is with custom Python. When we started out, I had built a prototype using Beats, Logstash. I can't remember the details, but I built an end-to-end solution, handed over to my developer. He's a Python programmer. It didn't compute. He wanted to build the ETL in Python. But in hindsight, no regrets. I'd be interested to take another look at Logstash and Beats, but really happy with that Python layer with the Python clients from Elastic. The management at Champion, they love Kibana, and it was the visualizations that first turned me on to Kibana. There's some great examples that ship with the product. I was working with a startup in London 2018, and they did some presentations to us, the board members, and I was quite impressed. I thought, I've been using Tableau. I thought, well, what's this Kibana thing? So I took a look at it, and it was that got me hooked into the Elastic ecosystem. And at Champion, we use the country map, as you can see. We use line and bar charts, metrics and gauges, heat maps, tree maps. This is an electricity supply business. You can imagine that there's lots going on in the dashboard. The unusual thing that we're using Elastic for is persistence. And the developer that I mentioned earlier, he thought I was absolutely crazy. He said, why are you not using Postgres or MongoDB? But for me, it was just one other thing to spin up in the environment. I already had an Elastic instance running. I thought, I've got a lot of data. Why don't I persist in there? And I was reading other people doing it. So you know, maybe it wasn't such a crazy idea. Tried it, and we're still using it to this day for persistence. The thing that really unlocked it was the Python DSL, the domain specific language SDK API, and that gives programmers almost pain-free interaction with Elastic. Another useful hack: a lot of our data, mentioned earlier, the industry data is in pipe delimited file formats. The way we manage data at Champion is we want to get as much of it into a YAML format, because being frugal, we can't automate every process, but we want our data in a format that is both human and machine readable. So we really like YAML. And I was a bit disappointed that I couldn't find a direct route to putting YAML into Elastic. But I found a hack, and now I'm happily persisting YAML data inside Elastic. As you'll know better than me, because I'm relatively new to Elastic, the Kibana is read-only. One of the frustrations in managing this data is sometimes you want to make a little edit to a piece of data, and you know, initially I could write 3-4 lines of Python code, change some data in the index, no problem. But after a while, that 30 seconds of work starts to get a drag. Wanted something more immediate. So I discovered Deja Vu, and it was a bit of a godsend at the time. Still using it to this day, although I do see a route away from Deja Vu coming my way soon. So in conclusion, regards the case study, and these figures are based on polling the management at Champion Energy. As I said earlier, they love Kibana. So 95% user satisfaction with that side of things. The approach was frugal engineering. I've avoided, wherever I could, license fees. So we know, because I've worked with numerous electricity suppliers coming into the market in the UK, we know that our cost base is at least half of similar sized utilities. And at the moment in the UK, and I think in Sweden too, there's a lot of additional regulatory scrutiny. So we did well to survive the storm. 30 suppliers in the UK. In the UK, there's about 100 electricity suppliers. 30 of them went out of business just over a year ago. Champion and others survived, and the reward that we got for that is the regulator is now trying to make sure that these disasters don't happen again. So we've been bombarded with regulatory change, and we know, because it's an industry-wide effort. We know, looking at the other suppliers, that they don't have the agility and the flexibility in the way that they've built out their IT, probably because they've just tried to do too much. We've stayed very lean, very frugal, not many moving parts, easy access to the data, and it's very much thanks to Elastic. So, wasn't quite a lightning talk, but I have whizzed through the slides, but I get the feeling that tonight's more about questions and having a chat than death by PowerPoint. So happy to answer any questions. Marvin, go for it. Start with the easy one.
The easy one. I may have missed it, but what does the company do exactly? I know you're within the energy space and you're collecting data from. Is it like you're collecting data or like some readers? What kind of data does Champion Energy work with? And then just as a follow-up, I kind of missed why you introduced Deja Vu. You kind of mentioned it's stuff around, you know, Kibana read on the what was the whole use case for bringing in Deja Vu?
Yeah. So, Champion Energy is an electricity supplier, an electricity retailer. The data that they're dealing with is predominantly energy consumption and meter technical data and market domain data. So we deal with half hourly consumption data for meter points. We deal with consumption profiles to estimate what the future energy over an estate of sometimes hundreds, in Champion's case, hundreds of locations. So lots of aggregating data, forecasting the data. And these messages that come through from the industry in the piped limited form, you know, they contain a lot of domain specific information about electricity supply, parties in the market, and so on. So it's electricity. Yeah. And Deja Vu was when I started made the decision to persist business entities inside Elasticsearch. It was fine because the majority of the data that we have in the business entities, it's write once, read many. So it worked kind of fine, but occasionally you know, somebody's keyed in a wrong value or something's gone wrong. We need to make a quick change to the data. Started out was doing that programmatically. Didn't take long with the Python DSL. You can get into the data quite quickly, make on the fly changes, but that was a bit of a drag. So I was crying out for, you know, why is there not an edit button inside Kibana? And I found the equivalent of the edit button, which is Deja Vu.
So you said you're looking to use this data to forecast and so on, and you also mentioned that you move to the cloud. Have you looked into any, our proprietary features, paid features like machine learning to find, to be like anomalies and so on in this data?
It's not something that is actively getting looked at, but you know, in the future, absolutely. The great thing about moving to the cloud as well is I immediately woke up to all the new features, because my on-premise instance of Elastic, I was stuck on 17 or yeah, 17.10. I was stuck on that, and then when I went to the cloud, I'm on 8.8. Is it 8? I've got the numbers all mixed up. You know, went to the new version with all these new features. So the one that stood out for me was I've got a slide for this. The one that stood out for me was enterprise search. So just to recap, Champion Energy is a client of mine. So they're one of several businesses that I support. What I'm finding is, they say when you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So, just about every client that I go to, I'm thinking, we could be using Elastic here. We could be using Elastic there. And I'm slowly building up my competence and understanding of what's in the ecosystem, and hopefully delivering some good solutions to my client base. I'm really interested in expanded use of Kibana. So I mentioned there's a lot of time series in the electricity supply. I haven't yet cracked how best to store the half-hourly time data into Elastic. I'm sure it can be done, but there's also a case for storing that in another specialized time series database. And I'm working with a partner, Hackham. They're an Austrian software engineering company, and they specialize in time series for energy. They've been doing it for 30 years. Company in Austria with 40 employees. So you can imagine there's a lot to think about with managing time series in the energy industry. And I'm sure there's a role for Elastic in there. So that's one thing I'm looking at. I like the FS Crawler project because another client of mine is a large state-owned electric utility in Africa, and we're doing a digital transformation of that utility, and we're just getting bombarded with document silos and all kinds of problems to access information inside the corporation. I just want to get a crawler out there and just map out the whole landscape. So FS Crawler, I was delighted to see that somebody in the Elastic ecosystems working with that. The enterprise search, I've got a project here in Stockholm. It's my pro bono activity at the moment, so it's not going at lightning speed, but we're looking at setting up a domain-specific search facility around sustainability for grassroots sustainability. You've probably heard the cliche that getting data and information from the internet is a bit like trying to drink water from a fire hose. So the goal for sustainability groups is to try and make information more available to grassroots sustainability groups, and I think that can be underpinned with Elastic.